Hello everyone, and welcome back to Juniper Coast. I'm Phamily, and welcome to the family. Now, I'm looking forward to this episode, because this is going to be our first real episode where the whole thing is time-lapsed and then voiced over in the back. And why would I be excited about that? Well, that means I can focus 100% on building from here on out. In that first episode, it was very difficult for me to really understand what I was going to do ahead of time. You might have noticed I was like, oh yeah, we're going to work on state parks, and we're going to do, take care of bridges and things like that. I noticed after the fact that we didn't ever get to that. So today, I finally get to look back at what we did and what we accomplished. So first things first, I noticed a really bad worker shortage. We didn't have enough residential zoned out, so I added a few more residential to get things in and start filling out, and I think we come back later to that and try to get a few more amenities in, like elementary schools and high schools and whatnot. And in order to help raise the land value and to increase the population, I decided to put a little park right here by the freeway. Almost a central park, if you will, for this town. And I wanted it to sort of be a buffer between the two halves. I noticed that can be very common in certain cities where there's the freeway dividing two halves of the city, and it's like two totally diverse populations. And so kind of leaning more towards realism here. That's kind of what I wanted to emulate a little bit, but still have it feel like one entire city. So I thought the perfect place for a park would be right there. The freeway obviously cuts right through the middle. So I also noticed while I was working on the park, as you can see right here, that I forgot to put in trash. We finally reached 3,000, and our population's going to explode, by the way, this episode. I do not remember the final number, but I believe it's over 10,000. Our population just booms by the end of this because we're doing nothing but high density for the most part in this section. So what I wanted to do is continue to try to work on this worker shortage, and I believe towards the end of the episode it sort of sorts itself out, but in the meantime we kind of start hitting some abandoned buildings, and our office spaces and our high-density commercial kind of suffer a little bit at the beginning, which is normal, but unfortunately not our concern at this point in time. Our concern is working on the park. So the fun part about working on the park is putting in everything, making it look like a park. And I wanted to make sure I left some nice big green spaces in the middle. You obviously see a lot of green spaces in a lot of different parks. You want to be able to have people have spaces to, let their dogs run around and, maybe play a sport or two, some soccer or some football or whatever. And, gotta have the climbing frame in there. I believe I put in a few picnic tables, and I think later on I do a trampoline park. I'm not 100% sure. I recorded this in a 3-hour chunk. This particular episode took about an hour and a half of that. So I'd like to apologize ahead of time for me trying to recall everything I did and explaining why I did it. I'll probably be better at explaining why I did things rather than recalling how they happened. I kind of have to see rewatch it and then explain it. Obviously the sandbox is near the kids area, a few gazebos, and then obviously we want some fencing in. I was struggling here with the anarchy, but we were able to get everything working out the way that it needed to. The reason I wanted to put fencing up is I wanted this park to be sort of a gated off thing. I'm not charging people to get into the park. It's going to be a free park. Anybody could just walk in, walk around, and have fun. We're not really concerned about finances in this particular build. We're just concerned about looks and about sense of realism. Obviously, we gotta give the people what they want. So if they want trash services, then we're gonna give them trash services. So obviously, though, I wanted to put the little fence near the highway. We don't want any kiddos running around banging their head against one of those pillars. Thankfully, we already have some concrete barricades to hopefully prevent some of the cars from flying out into the park. But we fenced off the section and made it look very nice, and I think we'll be putting in some trees along the edges to really kind of punctuate this park, and it actually makes it look really good. And I cannot express to you enough, if you're building your own city and you have the opportunity, definitely run something like vegetation or fence along the edge of some of your builds. There's something about it that just makes it feel more natural. Like it, especially with this park, you'll notice in this build, along these episodes, I come to fall in love with these trees. I forget what they're called. I think they're Northwest Pine or something like that. You can see them down below. I believe they're part of the original content creator pack, or no, actually, it actually shows down there that I'm building. It's a Steam Workshop asset, so you should be able to find it on the Steam Workshop, and it should work out great for you. Now, obviously, you don't want to have just all of one type of tree. You want to have a few other types of vegetation in there, and so I try to throw down a few bushes here and there and a couple of different types of trees, but mostly I just want it to feel a little bit more natural in here. Now I also wanted to sort of have a path running along the outside, so if people wanted to like jog in sort of a loop, they could jog in a loop without having to cross the grass. And so I decided to put that in there. It makes it a little bit more appealing for people who just want to come and take a walk. Makes it a little bit easier to walk around, still have that nice green space. As you can see, it's a very simple park on the edge there. As I'm checking something out there, I think we're starting to notice, if I remember in this the point of the recording, we're starting to notice the abandoned buildings, but I have a mod that just rebuilds them automatically. So the park, I decided to, at this point in time, sort of leave to grow. And for those of you who have the Park Life DLC or who don't know what the Park Life DLC is, basically what happens is the park has to upgrade, and the more upgrades, the more money you can receive, and the more attractive it is for your citizens. So I wanted to sort of continue to upgrade people's quality of life. And in order to do that, I needed to get some public transportation going. We don't have any public transportation going in our city right now, and that's a problem. That is a big problem, to not have any public transportation. Obviously, when you're first starting out, it's not that big a deal, but when you've grown to the extent that we've grown already, then you're definitely going to want to get some of that in. And I decided to go with the tram. The tram is already integrated into the city right now. The tram network came when in the previous episode when you saw me place this whole section of city. You can actually see that line. It's that lighter gray around the edge, and you can actually see me using it right now. And I decided to, make use of it. It's already there. It's integrated into the city, and I thought it was the perfect opportunity to use it. Now, in this particular episode, I only put down the one. I only wanted to put down one line. I wanted to sort of get everything flowing on this particular side. I also had a Steam Workshop asset that has sort of a more realistic to the Pacific Northwest version of light rail, if it would be. I don't know what I was checking there, but this whole episode and future episodes are all going to be uncut. It helps saves a little bit of work and kind of shows you what my thought process is going into this city. Obviously, we're still having issues, and you can actually see there's the light rail. There it goes, off in the distance. And I follow it a little bit to make sure everything's working. I try getting some cinematics with it, and it didn't quite work. And you can actually see there was an issue right here with one of the train lines that came through there. And I decided not to use that particular train line, and I instead put in a road here. I don't think we're going to be using the train line much in the city. We might use it as like a bypass. I'm not 100% sure what we can use it for. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments section. Any suggestions for the train line besides just, have the train line be a train line, but meaning like, should we have like passenger rail come through there, or should we just have it as a bypass for cargo? I know I have plans in future episodes coming up that might change a few of what y'all will be saying, but for now, any comments are welcome. As I turn off the rain here so that I save on some resources. You notice I put in a couple roads. That was me sort of testing things, seeing what the future extents of the city are going to look like. I just wanted to sort of get a feel for where things were. If I could get like a train station there, you can see, me sort of messing with it and trying to figure things out. And what I was wanting to do is I was actually going to figure out low density. I was going to do low density at this point, and you can see me sort of messing around with it right now. But the low density didn't feel right in this part of Balos. And then my ADHD went off, and I'm on to my third thing in the last 10 minutes of recording time and 2 to 3 minutes for you all. I finally connected up the Beltway, and that actually really helped alleviate a little bit of traffic that had somehow built up in various parts of the city, because now they can actually cut straight through. And it really worked out well. It gave plenty of routes for other parts of the city to work with, and it was very helpful to sort of allow a cut through. So now I decided to ditch my plans for the low density for the time being, and instead we're starting work on our university. Now it defaults to University of Juniper Coast. I think I just rename it Juniper Coast University later on. And this does expand, trust me, this will expand, and there are lots of little small things that we mess with. I decided to give visiting scholars an about $10,000 budget, which is a good starting amount if you just are just going to lay something out and just let the university grow on its own. If you have access to everything already, it's going to be fine. It'll attract enough people that it's going to be worthwhile for your students. So now I just kind of start getting things laid out the way that I think they should be laid out. It's just a nice fun little thing, and I also finally put the district in for the entirety of Balos. Now that I kind of have a feeling for how extended Balos is going to be, I went ahead and I just threw down, this is Balos City. And you can see some of the traffic's decided to kind of get crunched up here. And I finally got it to where the traffic could flow, and I fixed a couple of intersections to allow traffic to just flow continuously without stopping, which really helped. So I decided finally to go back to the university. The university was a little bit more in depth than I was anticipating. I've done universities in the past, and I And I usually just put them into this grid and just sort of build things, but I kind of wanted to give it its own personality. So I had this weird, like, residential building, as you saw there, that kind of loops back on itself. And I barely got the faculty building squeezed in there, and I've got like two buildings at weird angles. But as odd as this sounds, it feels natural, like to have these buildings in really weird ways. I also wanted to kind of start making this feel almost like a college town. Like, obviously, it's going to be a city. It's going to be a big city, and there's going to be a lot more people here than just college students. But I wanted it to feel like the university campus, and then it sort of bleeds into the rest of the city. So later on, I don't know if it's this episode or the next, spoilers, I guess, just in case, but I do get a downtown built in. I believe it's this episode. I could be wrong, but we get a downtown put in right across the freeway from this point. You can see I just decided to put in a little study area right there. But just on the other side of the freeway is going to be like an IT district. It's going to have tall buildings, and it's semi-jarring, but it's exactly what I think it should look like. But then we have a whole bunch of residential that are going to be on the other side of the university, which definitely feels like it should. There's going to be high-density apartment buildings right next to the university for all the students who want to live off campus. And then, well, I'm not gonna spoil the next episodes, so at least attempt not to. And I'll try not to do that throughout the recordings. I'm gonna try to keep it very present tense. As you can tell, I'm trying to figure out where to put the commencement hall. The commencement hall was definitely a struggle to figure out. I do end up figuring out eventually where to put it, but it's actually not going to be here, and you're going to see a cool little trick, either in this episode or the next, a cool little trick on how you can expand your university without feeling cramped for space. It also makes it feel a little bit more natural as well. So I wanted to get a little bit of everything in here. I wanted it to have everything that it needed and to feel fully expanded as a university. So obviously that includes buildings and that includes everything. As you can see, I'm trying to figure out where to put really big universities. There's the trick I was talking about. You can actually extend your districts out, and you can do that with any of your districts, and you can just draw a quick little line and then fill out a bigger area somewhere off in the distance and then cut it off from the main distance. So technically that part is Juniper Coast University off in the distance there. That law school is Juniper Coast University, but it is not part of the main thing. And there I'm doing it again. I believe this is for the medical school. So you can do that with your districts to help out. And I kind of liked placing the building there. That felt almost like it would be a general hospital, kind of off in the distance. Okay, I'm glad I'm not spoiling anything now that I'm rewatching this to more in depth. This is what I was talking about, making the downtown, and it popped up as Manor Square. I just renamed it Downtown Balos City. If you have a better name for the district, please do suggest it. I am totally up for any names that you suggest. If you have better names for the university, even, please let me know in the comments. If this ends up being a premiere, in the premiere chat as well. And you can see how quickly those offices just popped up. And, I'm trying to get a feel for how it looks. And honestly, I really liked how quickly it popped up. And I think what we'll end up doing is we will kind of have another part of the city to the other side of the skyline there to kind of make that our focal point for Balos City. So now I'm just putting in a little bit of low density commercial. And the reason I'm doing that in the bounds of the university is I think that's pretty much what you would see, some restaurants, some bars, some, little corner stores and convenience locations on the university campus for the for the bit of the students who would like some extra assistance. And finally, I decided to bump up the tax rate after forever and kind of mess around with a few things here and there. I think I throw in our nuclear reactor for the city. We finally went nuclear. And the reason I decided to put that in there, one, towards the edge of the city, feels like where a nuclear reactor would be. We're going to try to keep, keyword is try to keep our industry sort of in that corner, and having the nuclear reactor right towards the edge will definitely help. And I'm just sort of messing with the budget, trying to keep my budget as low as possible, and trying to get the income increasing. Even though I'm on unlimited money, I do like trying to balance the budget, so to speak. So now I just decide to mess around a little bit with the design of the university, make it look just a little bit more complete. Put in a few more commercial here. That road right there is probably going to be like the main road next to the university. So I thought that would be the perfect spot for it. So I decided to check on the city park. City Park is very, very close to being fully upgraded. I think it was only a little bit of entertainment away. In order to upgrade, you have to have a certain number of visitors, and you have to have a certain number of entertainment value in the park. And we had the visitors. It was free. A lot of people loved it. So I decided to throw in a little bit of entertainment value. We got the trampoline in there, but I didn't want to try to duplicate anything. So, like, obviously, restrooms, park info, things like that, that's okay to be duplicated, but it didn't feel right to duplicate anything else. And you're about to see my first mistake of this build so far. Probably one of the more nerve-wracking parts of this build. I decided to put a pond in the center here because I thought that was going to be a fantastic idea. So I kind of mess with the different sizes. They don't quite work out the way I want to, but in the end I'm like, this is going to be perfect. And then I flood the city. That was definitely one of the more nerve-wracking panic sets, and so I was like, oh yeah, we just need to move the sea level. That was mistake number 2, and you'll see that in a minute. So, and then of course I flood the city some more, and as I'm just trying to figure out and going into a panic here of what on earth I am supposed to do, but eventually we do get it working the way that we need to. As you can see, we're already over 13,000 population, climbing fast, but we finally get the lake the way that we need to, and I got a little pier on there as the final little bit of entertainment value. And as soon as I placed that down, you saw that little star. We leveled up nearly immediately. So I put a little path. Obviously, you've got those people who are just walking out to it, but I wanted to at least put a path in there, make it feel a little bit more natural, how it should. So now there's a little small lake in the middle, and here's where you can see where I made the mistake. And I had to readjust the water levels. So on a future episode, I'll have to go back and check, but for the duration of the recording, I just sort of left it as is. So I like quadruple check to make sure everything's okay. And I felt this space was empty. And so before I finished up the episode, I was like, you know what? I need to fill in this space. And so I decided to put a little small area for a botanical garden. A little bit more entertainment value. A good place to sort of go off the edge. And I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I figured out that I had proper tree anarchy off. And the spacing wasn't quite right, so I was able to get that adjusted. But you can see, just by putting those bushes down, it already helped out a lot on the edges of the botanical garden. It made it feel like it should over there. Now, it didn't feel like there was enough trees back there, so I decided to add in a few additional trees, or at least try to. I ended up having to put them in manually instead of having the brush tool. But honestly, that little area really filled in nice. So now we have a proper downtown. I'm sort of going through, doing some last minute checks here. But now we have a proper downtown and a proper park. All that I felt was needed was just a few more people, just to sort of fill in the last little bit of demand. And obviously just a touch more commercial. And I wanted to connect up the downtown so that the downtown was in a good, proper location. And there you have it. We are filling in the last little spots. I think I put some trees in here too. I could be wrong. I think I do. I think I do end up putting some trees here. Yeah, I do put in some trees, as you can see. And just using a general brush. It's amazing what trees can do to everything. They're also good for muting some sound, so I ended up using some trees near the highway as well, and around the edges of the city to help sort of contain a little bit of that sound. They act as a good buffer. So all those people right next to the residential will be very, very grateful. And with that, we are at the end of episode 2. I know these are going by super quick, but I am super grateful for the positivity that you all have been showing this series. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you all in episode 3. Again, thank you so much for watching. You have a lovely, lovely evening.